Welcome back to the Socialist Report. We got this article from the Real News Network. That's a correct source, isn't it? Yeah, Real News Network. Southwest Airlines Christmas meltdown shows how corporations deliberately pit consumers against low-wage workers. Our system is set up to create mutual antagonism between members of the working class. Meanwhile, faceless corporate executives remain shielded like mob bosses. This is by Adam Johnson. Alright, so it originally appeared in the column on Substack. Recent viral images of Southwest agents getting yelled at and crying have resurfaced a valuable lesson about the nature of our economic system that's worth examining this holiday season. The deliberate, built-in ways corporate customer service is set up to not only shield those on the top of the ladder, executives, vice presidents, large shareholders, but pit low-wage workers against each other in an inherently antagonistic relationship marked by powerlessness and frustration. It's a dynamic we discussed in episode 118, The Snitch Economy, how rating apps and tipping pit working people against each other. Of the Citations Needed podcasts they co-host, but they feel ought to be expanded on in light of recent events. That's not written right, but watching video after video, reading tweet after tweet describing frustrated, stranded holiday travelers yelling at Southwest Airlines workers and hearing in-turn accounts of airline workers and airport staff breaking down crying, it's a good opportunity to talk about how none of this is natural or inevitable. It is a choice, both in corporate policy and government regulation. There are three main ways capital pits workers against each other in a relationship we call customer service. Snitch economy. As discussed in Citations Needed, episode 118, we are provided with more and more apps, websites, and customer surveys to effectively do the job of management, free of charge, of course, under the auspices of empowering the consumer. We are told to spy on our low-wage servants and gauge the quality of their servitude with stars, tips, and reviews. Uber, DoorDash, Fiverr, Grubhub, a new gig economy has emerged that not only misclassifies workers as freelancers to pay them less, but hands over the reins of management to the consumer directly. This necessarily increases the antagonism between working class consumers and the workers they are snitching on. Automation. Increasingly, even getting to the bottom rung employee to yell at is difficult. Under the thin pretense of COVID, increased labor power has exploded the use of automated technology that creates a frustrating maze to get a simple problem solved or task accomplished. Don't go to the register, instead download the app and order. Scan a QR code. Don't wait on hold. Go to your website and engage a series of automated prompts and maybe you can solve your problem. More and more consumers are being pushed away from humans only to automated systems we are told will save us time, but instead exist solely to save the corporation labor costs. So by the time the average consumer does finally work their way to seeing a human, they're annoyed, frustrated, and angry at this faceless entity and more willing to take it out on someone making $13 an hour. And they're even going to the point, they're like Walmart, for example, they're replacing cashiers with AI. They're replacing them with self-checkouts. And this is just pure madness. This is all about securing the corporation's profits. This is all about maximizing profits by screwing over the working class. One recent visit to Houston's George H.W. Bush Airport There's an airport named after him. That's the father, but the father wasn't much better. Airport porch tuned our obnoxious automated future to cut down on unionized airport labor. All the restaurants use QR codes and require you to order food and drinks for yourself. Per usual, it's sold as an exciting new technology that's somehow good for consumers, but really the basic technology is about 30 years old. It's just a screen, the same ones restaurants have had for decades. The only thing that's changed in the social conditioning of having you do all your own ordering and menu navigation. The writer hasn't been replaced by an iPad. They've been replaced by you. Invariably, it's clunky and annoying and reduces the union jobs that airport construction is said to provide to justify soliciting public dollars. The only winner is a faceless corporation with a Delaware LLC and its shareholders living in a few countries in Connecticut, in a few counties in Connecticut and Texas. We need to fully nationalize the airports and get private companies completely out of the airports, because the airports should not be left to private companies so they can price gouge consumers and harm their workers just for profit. It's what they've been doing, and this is why we've been having so many problems with airlines. Pete Buttigieg, that neoliberal, is not going to fix anything when it comes to the airlines. If you think Pete Buttigieg, he is the Secretary of Transportation currently, if you think he's going to change anything because he is a gay man, this woke capitalism, and I use woke very loosely because the far right tends to use that word to mean literally any bit of diversity, but I'm calling it woke capitalism because they're using like gay and black people and things like that in order to push capitalism. But if you think that he's going to change anything, and if people actually think that he would make a good president, this is going a bit off on a tangent here, but he does not care about the airports. He does not care about transportation at all. All he cares about is lining his pockets and taking the money from the corporations. That's all Pete Buttigieg cares about. And this has to do with him in a bit of a way. Automation not only annoys and adds labor burdens to the customer, there's also evidence that is a significant contributor to income inequality. Before we get into that, another thing about automation is ordering all this stuff on these phones and everything. You are giving them information. They are stealing your information to sell it to other corporations so they can do ad-based, personalized advertisement. So they know what you like, and they will advertise to you what you like. This is the late stage capitalism. This is what capitalism has become. They're using technology to brainwash and condition people to just maximize their profits. And also, well, I'm not going to get into the corporations giving your information to FBI because I don't think this really has anything to do with that, not when it comes to ordering food and things. A November 2022 study published in the journal Econometra looked at the significantly widening income gap between lesser and more educated workers over the past 40 years. It found that automation accounts for more than half of that increase, as summarized by MIT News. This single one variable explains 50 to 70% of the changes or variation between group inequality from 1980 to about 2016, said MIT economist Darren Acemoglu, co-author of the study. Whether or not under a different economic system automation could be a force for good is a debate for another day. But what is clear is that while both consumers and workers are harmed by this trend, there is a significant want of solidarity between them. Okay, I am going to go off and give my opinion about automation under socialism and automation under communism. Under socialism, I believe it would do more harm than good, because I think the most important thing under a socialist economy, and under any economy, to be frank, is the worker. And I feel like automation would replace the worker, and I don't think it'd be very good. Automation would work under a communist society, but the thing is, there is problems with that. People need to work, even if people need to work, even if we can automate all the jobs and money, everything would be free and all that. People need to work, so I don't feel like automation would ever be an actual good thing. But if it were to work under anything to help workers, I mean, it could low amounts of automation could help workers, like very dangerous jobs. Replacing them with AI could help, but like replacing every job with AI, it's a terrible idea. But let's continue. Deliberate understaffing. This is a major culprit in this week's Southwest Airlines meltdown. In parallel with the increased use of forced automation, cost-cutting corporations facing increased labor power are gutting staffing in its bare bones and hoping their corporate competitors doing the same will lead to a shift in consumers' willingness to put up with substandard service and conditions and overall BS. We apologize for the wait. The automated phone prompt tells us, of course a machine cannot be contrite, so the effect is both surreal and grating. You're not, I'm sorry, you don't exist. You're recording, but now who am I yelling at? We're not just increasingly alienated from our labor and social networks, but from our enemies. We can't get mad that corporations delayed our flight or overbilled, stolen, $400 from us, or removed a life-saving medicine from our insurance, or erroneously reported us to a collection agency, ruining our credit. If you saw my video about China's no, I don't think I did a video about China's so-called credit system that the United States actually has. The United States actually has a credit system, and then they are going to reflect on China and say they're the ones doing the credit thing. No, that's the United States that's doing the credit thing. But back to the story, because we can't actually talk to anyone to get mad at. They're built up walls such that the only way to actually contact them is to retain an attorney and sue them. And even then, you're really only contracting an attorney. But most of their fleecing and robbery falls well below the threshold that would make this make economic sense. And they know this. All this is a toxic brew of mutual antagonism. Customer satisfaction is at a 17-year low, and the only human face people can take their frustration out on is a low-wage worker. Obviously, there's never an excuse to yell at anyone in customer service. The point is not a moral one. It's that it's by design. Indeed, corporate executives very much want you to vent your frustration on their low-wage workers. This way, you get the vague feeling of agency and control in a system designed to remove any and all forms of it. Southwest Airlines, ticketing agents, cashiers at Nando's Chicken, low-wage call center workers for Verizon overseas become corporate sin-eaters, absorbing all the frustration and anger brought about by our greasy, cost-cutting executives. Add to this the severe mental and physical harms and death laid at the feet of low-wage workers during the pandemic, and our built-in system of mutual antagonism compounds dozens of their stressors. stressors. We are conditioned to get mad at the human face we see before us, the representative of the company who personally profits nothing from our purchase. We are conditioned to get mad at the waiter when our food is late and penalize this bad service with a bad tip, when the vast majority of the time it's due to understaffing by a cheapskate boss. We are conditioned to get upset with the enforcer of arbitrary rules at a hotel checkpoint despite it not being their rule at all. We are conditioned to be hostile to the very people we should have the most solidarity with. Those who actually make the decisions remain protected like mob bosses, gently nestled between layers of middle management, lawyers, and marketing reps, impossible to reach by design. They have addresses and homes and phone numbers, you just don't have access to them. And if you did, this would be stalking, and you'd likely get a visit from a police officer. Meanwhile, they have all your information and can hound you with credit agencies and just randomly steal your money. To the extent they face consequences, it's a pointless fine that's factored into their cost-benefit calculations at the beginning of the year. Recently, Wells Fargo was again found to have stolen or scammed billions from its working-class customers. Hertz Rent-A-Cars settled for $168 million for getting dozens of its customers wrongfully imprisoned, leading one to miscarry her baby while in county jail. The punishment for both? A pointless fine. No one was ever fired. Business churns on per usual. Meanwhile, those who steal from these very same corporations receive much more intimate punishments. Arrest by police, long prison sentences. Their pictures, names, and addresses published online for all to see forever. The still ongoing COVID pandemic has made this dynamic much worse. Though largely as pretext, every prompt now putting you on hold for 3 hours insists it's because of increased call volume brought about by the pandemic. But this makes no sense. This past year saw record profits, but an increase in automation and wait times. There's an informal, though possibly formal, agreement among corporate America to reduce expectations and keep you waiting as long as legally allowed. Because screw you, what are you going to do about it? Federal regulators and attorneys general will intervene now and then, sue here and there, basically just as corporations to pay people back. There are never any real consequences. No jail time, no real punishment. Just token fines and increased oversight arguments where they promise to be on their best behavior. Many of the regulators end up working for these same corporations, and there's a gentleman's agreement that unless a corporation steals from the rich, they can pretty much screw over people as much as they want. And when they do cross the line into the explicitly illegal, so long as they pay roughly the exact amount they stole, it's a whoopsie and everyone moves on. Meanwhile, by design, the only humans we interface with are those who, by definition, are the lowest on the ladder, the least paid and least protected. The cashier, the ticket agent, the flight attendant, the poor call center punching bag. So people yell at them because there is no one else. They hate you back, and worker solidarity further erodes. We all grow more atomized, angry, powerless, and bitter, and the system works as intended. And that concludes the article. And you could tell the person writing this was pretty mad, but totally agree. They are conditioning us in a way they're trying to, as the last line said, erode worker solidarity. They don't want us to rise up against, because that threatens their bottom line. That threatens their profit. All they care about is money, and that's all they ever will care about. And nothing will ever change as long as we keep electing these corrupt politicians that work for the corporations. Bottom line is, we need money out of politics, and we need a third party. But that's going to conclude this video. Thank you for watching. sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. This has been the Socialist Report, and this has been from the Real News Network and the column. See you next one. Peace out.